thank you, Hannah, for joining us today to look over some designs from our Design Circle community. So,
thank you so much for having me. This is my second makeover, and the first one was just so fun. I couldn't wait to do it again. I'm really honored to help you guys out. I hope you find this useful, that you learned something. I certainly did, even the ones I've sat in on as well, not necessarily the designer, but also just learning. They've always been really interesting. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there's two designs we're going to make over today, which I'm super excited about. We're going to start with Lana's, a 1080 by 1080. So it's probably for Instagram or Social Square. And the second one is Amanda's. And I think this is also a Social Square, but it's a little bit different today. It's animated over a few frames, which is quite exciting. I haven't reviewed or made over an animated one before. That is for this really cool product, a summer school course for kids teaching science, and you get everything delivered in the mail. The content of the ad, it will become apparent, but it's a really cool idea. So I'm really happy to help out with the design. Okay, so Lana's is for a company called CareWise, and I had a little look online at CareWise website, and it's a really cool website that marries a lot of science and research into people's well-being and mental health. So it seems like a really cool cause. This is the design she sent me, and I had a few ideas for how we could improve it. As you can see, it's super simple, but I think just a couple of little tweaks could make a really big difference. Firstly, I think the thing that we could tackle would be the alignment, especially some of the text could be sort of tidied up together in alignment. The next is some simplicity little tweaks. And the last one is treating her logo with a bit more care. I think we could really change up the logo to better fit. At the moment, it's floating a little bit. So those are the three. We've got some alignment to work on, some simplicity, and some logo optimization. So let's get started. So I'll copy the one that Lana provided me so we can refer back to it. Here it is here. So the first thing I think I'd do is just have a think about what this social graphic is trying to tell the user, and what as the designer of this piece of artwork I want the audience to then do. I would imagine this piece of yellow text is the most important thing for the the audience to focus on. I want them to follow for more content, the webinars and podcasts that we're providing at CareWise. So that is the key takeaway. I want them to follow. So I'm going to make this piece here a lot smaller. It's important, but not nearly as much. So I'm going to, it's got a little group in here. I don't know what that is, but let's make it much smaller. And I think I'm going to run it across the bottom, because a community connecting health and wellness is a direct tagline that should really sit with our logo. Those two things sort of go together. I'm also going to put the logo at the bottom. There's a few ways I could optimize this logo to make it sort of anchored on the page a bit more. The first I think I will give a go is adding a bit of a footer to anchor the bottom of the graphic. So if I press R on my keyboard, I automatically get a rectangle. This will happen on any design, and it will by default take one of the colors I'm already using in my design, which is very handy. I'm going to move it to the back. And then we have this nice little base for the logo to sit on that makes it look like it's not floating quite so much. I'm going to move this back so I can see my nice little tagline. I might make it slightly bigger, but I don't want to drown out what really matters, which is the logo there. So I think that's a really nice bottom. I'll also make sure the space on this left margin and the right margin are even, so it feels nice and balanced. Great. So the next thing I think I'm going to do is see these two pieces of these two elements. I've got this lovely picture of this woman who's sort of leaning with joy back on this this sort of hedge, but I don't like that the text is sitting so close to her her face and cutting off her hat a little bit. I think we could change this composition to sit a bit better. So I'm going to move the woman a little bit. And then because she's got this really nice left alignment, I'm going to right align the text to give some more balance. I'm also going to move it away from her face. And because of the color, I could keep it yellow, or I actually might make it white just to sort of marry that text with the bottom footer instead of using the yellow. The yellow might appear in the Care Wires larger piece of branding. I'm not sure. It didn't seem particularly like used on the website. So I think I'm going to remove it just for simplicity's sake and just have this blue and white sort of represent their brand. And what's nice about moving it from up here to down here is naturally in the photo, there is a darker background for this white text to sit on, making it easier to read. I think that's also important. What we could do is play with the color of the actual photo. We do want it to be fresh and sort of natural because it is representing well-being and being outside and nature and all those things. So we don't want to make it too dark, but there might be a little bit of filter that would give us a little bit more definition under this text, which I think will be nice. So I think that's looking really nice. There's one other alternative I'd love to show you, and it's to demonstrate another way we could optimize that logo. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to try something a little bit different. So instead putting the logo down here, I'm going to put it a little bit more dominant. And I think what's also important, again, that we line up our alignment so things feel purposeful and that they have a real place. And I'm going to center this now. But I'm still going to keep the tagline as a less important piece of this visual communication. This main action that I want the audience to take is what should remain at the forefront. So what we can do with the logo now, which is pretty cool, is if you've got Pro, I can take off this background. And I think that's going to look really, really nice sitting on that green with the text. I'll make it a bit bigger just so it doesn't get lost in that greenery. But I think on Instagram or Facebook, right in front of somebody's face on a mobile screen, that logo at that size is going to look really nice. I don't think it has to be any bigger than that. If you think about how this audience is going to be viewing this ad, it is right in front of their face. So it doesn't have to be very loud. So there we go. There's two alternatives to what Lana sent me, and we'll review. This second one uses the background remover feature to remove that blue box off the logo, which I think gives it a bit more breathing space, makes it feel a really nice part of the overall design. But alternatively, we could make it feel part of the design by anchoring it together at the bottom in a footer with the tagline. So 1 and 2, and here's the original. You can see now, especially looking in retrospect, how it's really sort of been elevated, especially by removing those things away from her face. You really get this sense of well-being that they're trying to communicate by using this photo. I'll come back to Amanda's. So this is really exciting because not only is it animated, it's got, she's put an audio track in, which is really cool. And because it's over multiple pages, it's going to animate different information at different times. And she's controlled the timing up here for how long it would sort of loop. So what I'll do is, this is the first page she sent me, and this is the second. So I had a sort of review over her design before this makeover when she sent it to me. And I tried to sort of think about what it made the most sense to tell my audience first. When you think about on Instagram, you don't have very long to get somebody's attention, especially when you've got multiple frames of information happening, you probably want to make sure in that first frame, the most important stuff is seen first. And if you catch their attention and they do want to know more, the additional information is what they can keep looking for. So I've tried to think about what would be most important to catch the audience with first, and then put all of the detail, if they're interested, in the secondary page. I decided also that maybe with just so much information here, maybe we could even make it more than 2 pages. We could make it 3 or 4, just to separate out this information to give users, I'm a product designer, the audience, a chance to read each bit that really matters. So I think I've already made a copy. No, I haven't yet. Here we go. I started playing with some ideas, but let's start from scratch together. Okay, so I'll duplicate the first page. And what I think I'd like to do is really focus on the fact that amongst all this information, what really matters is that this is an advertisement for a summer science lab for kids. So I think the kids part comes across in the fun colors and this main cute little image. So I'm going to remove a lot of this other information. Don't worry, I'll be bringing it back, but we'll do it in a little bit of a different way. Just lock some of these elements so I didn't forget and go over Amanda's good work already. Okay, so I'm going to keep Summer Science Lab at the very top, and I think I'll make it two lines. This information up here, I might not put on this page because part of it is also already on the page. So I'm going to delete that for now. I love this image. I think it's super cute. So I'm going to make this more of the hero image of the page. So I'll move this one away. I'm going to put this in the center. For now, I'm going to delete this information. It's also super important, but I think it needs a bit more space of its own. So use it what the audience can really read it. So I'll delete that. I'll make this the hero. I'm going to delete these for now. And this. This is interesting. I thought this was an interesting piece of text here. I thought it was a really nice way to introduce what we're talking about. So in partnership with Perkins Academy, and then I can introduce the program. Instead of being it near the bottom, I think this sort of tells a better story about what we're talking about. So I put that at the top. And then what we're seeing on Instagram or Facebook becomes really apparent. It's a summer science lab. I'm going to move these two lines slightly closer together just so we get as much room out of the page as we can. Another thing we can do to simplify things for the person viewing them is sort of a simplification for cognitive energy's sake. So it might seem really subtle, but at the moment, there's so many different fonts and colors and effects on the text. The brain has to keep sort of making these little judgments on just sort of rearranging what I should look at first, and they can add a lot of noise to what we're trying to read. So what I'm going to do is make some of these fonts all the same instead of looking at little variations all the time. I'll make sure it's centered. This has also become more legible as well. White on teal, which looks really great, can get really hard to read on a finer font. So this is the same font, but it's not in caps, which I think is okay. What I will do is take out some of the noise that the lime green is giving. It's making it a bit hard to know that I should read, you know, in a linear fashion. But I do see what I think she's trying to achieve is that Perkins Academy in lime green is the important part, and also that all materials shipped all materials of the course are shipped to the student. So I think I can achieve that, like that visual importance in a different way without making it hard to read. So I'm going to make it all black. I've also put Perkins Academy up here, which wasn't before, which I think also makes it more important. I'm going to give all materials its own line because I think it is an important feature of this kids program. I imagine that's a feature that would really appeal to the parents who would purchase this, that all the supplies are provided. So now I know we've taken a lot of information out, but the crucial stuff is what I'm going to see first when I first see it on Instagram or Facebook. If I want to know more, all I have to do is not scroll. And because it's animated, the next page is going to tell me more. So I'm going to duplicate this so we can start with the same background. I'm going to keep the title because what would be nice is there's some sort of consistent things, even though it's animating, that stay throughout the changing animations every frame. Okay, so we've got in partnership with Perkins Academy, Summer Science Club, and then I thought this sentence was most important. There's one other thing that I think is really important to leave on that first page, which is the when. I think that's a really important thing when parents would be judging whether if it's a suitable thing or whether they're interested in its start date. I think that's a pretty important piece of information. So I'm going to make another rectangle again. I'm going to put it down the bottom here in that same background color. So it sort of fades away. It doesn't become yet another element. And then I'm going to go back to Amanda's original and get that, what I think is quite an important piece of information. Classes begin June 15th. Okay, cool. It is in that same consistent font, but it has this glow on it that I think is too strong. What I might do is leave it there, but just make it a bit subtler. Because I think it's actually, while I'm sure it was put there to sort of bring attention to it, I think it's making it a bit hard to read. I'll give all the letter spacing a bit more breathing room so it's easier to read. And what I'll do with this effect, you can see which one's been put on, neon, is what I'll do is I will copy this, turn this layer down a bit, so it's about half, and then I'm going to put the one I copied back on top, paste it on top, and then take the effect off this one, none. So it's still there, but it's way more subtle. And just so I can keep them together, it's a good habit to select them both. Come on. And group them, just so if I do want to move them, they're going to move together. Makes it easier for me moving forward. So I also think this piece of the design is worth putting on the next frame. Like that, and it should, I think it has the rectangle behind it. I'll soon find out, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to go back to all the other information that I got rid of, which I need to bring back in. So what else is important is virtual. That's important for teachers and parents to know that it happens virtually. But I don't think it has to be bright pink and have a shadow and be bigger than what I've deemed more important. So I'm going to add it as this cute little add-on to the title. Again, I think it's nice if you can not add too much cognitive load by adding a new font or a new color. If you don't have to, I think that sort of that's a good representation of how important it is. Like, it is important, it's next to the title, but it's not, it doesn't have to take up as much space. So I think that's quite nice. I'm going to also put that in this version here. Cool. The other things that I think I deleted that I need to bring back is this super cute animation here. This little moving sticker, but I don't think it needs to be as dominant. Sometimes I end up cropping off a corner of the animation. There we go. That looks good. And to make it super fun, let's add a little angle. I think that's cute. And I'll put it on the next page too, just for that consistency. So the bit that's really important on here that I haven't yet included is what I do next as the audience. How do I get involved? How do I get a ticket? How do I learn more? And so this piece here is very important. I think it's so important that I'm going to make a frame that makes that the focus, because that's what we want the parents to see, right? That's what I do with this information. And what we can do is we can show it more than once. It's a nice, whenever you look at a TV ad or any sort of Instagram ad, people end with who brought it to you and where you can learn more, whether that's the handle or the website address. It's always nice to end on that information. So I'll put it here, but I think I might put it at the end as well. So I've made that much more dominant. Okay, what else have I removed that I think is important? I think this stuff is really important, but like I said at the very beginning, I feel that those are pieces of information I could read in the details if I choose to keep watching. The other thing that's quite important is how much it costs. That could be a real decider for parents and teachers when they're thinking about whether this is suitable. So I'm going to take that and make the next page. So this was her second page, and I think this is really nice divide between all the exciting information, what it is, and then this is the details, the schedule. So there's some of that information from the first page that I'm going to add to here. But before I do that, there's a few things I want to tidy up just so it becomes a bit easier to read. This is so content heavy, and it's, I think, what's this one? This is visible in the ad for only 10 seconds. There's too much information here to read quickly. So we're going to tidy it up again a bit to make it a bit easier to read by scanning. I've locked these as well. Let me just unlock them. Okay, so I'm going to take these black borders off. I think the those cute angled colored post-its do enough to give each one its own little frame. I think the black actually sort of tightens in the text and makes it harder to focus on. So I'm going to take those off. I think that's even like already become a bit easier to read. There's a few other things with this text I could do to make it easier to read. There's a shadow. I don't know if you can see that. I'll zoom right in. There's a little effect on the text here that works quite well on, say, this one, but becomes actually less readable on the yellow. So what I'm going to do is change out the white for black, and I'm going to take that effect off. That's become much more readable. I'm going to do the same here, but there we go. It did work actually okay on the teal, but I think for consistency, we'll do them all the same. So I'm going to choose all of them. And just make them black and then take off that effect as well. There we go. Easier to read. Okay. I think this is super cute, but I think these are competing with each other. They have a different motion and a different speed, which I think it's a little bit jarring. So I'm going to choose one over the other. And also because we already have a similar little icon, I think we'll keep this one if we kept another. So I'm going to get rid of this gap in the middle. This also has a glow on it, a neon glow, I think. Let me check. Yeah. And I like it, but I think it's too strong. So I'm going to do that same thing I did before. I'm going to, firstly, I'll center it. I'll copy it. I'll turn this one down to 50-ish%. I'm going to paste it back on top, and then on the top one, I will remove the effect. So we've got a 50% effect, which I think it adds some fun and life, but it's easier to read. And again, I will group them just so I end up wanting to move them. They'll move together. I'm going to remove this graphic for now. I don't think we need it. I think there's enough going on in here without having any more fun. It's super fun already. This is important. We've mentioned it's a virtual course on the front page, but a little more detail about exactly how I think is quite useful. But I don't think it has to be quite so big. This can be sort of accompanying to the title. It's nice that you sort of read left to right too. Weekly schedule, live on Zoom. It's almost like two parts of a sentence, which is nice. I want to move these down. Oops. Just got to unlock these little post-it note squares. I think that's super cute. It's a really nice way to have thought about the schedule. It's got a real classroom feel. It's really playful. Cool. So I'll pick them up. I might just group them together as a big unit, just in case I do want to shift them. Again, makes it easy. All right, so we've simplified it a lot. What we have removed that I mentioned before that I think is important that we bring back is this information here. But that feels like more of a detail, so I'm going to add it to this area. Move this right to the back. And I don't want to introduce new fonts, so I'm going to use my Nord bold. I think it's a really nice one to keep it all consistent. And then just like on this little cute little one, we did a bit of an angle. I'm going to put the zoom on an angle too. I think it gives a bit of life. Cool. Now it's almost like we've made, if we read it from top to bottom, it's almost like we're writing a paragraph, like it all makes sense in an order. So it's a weekly schedule, 12 science labs in 6 weeks, shipped directly to your front door, live on Zoom. I feel we've talked about the elements that people need to know in the right order. If they want to know more, like the content of each day of the course, they keep reading down the page. And then so at the bottom of the page should be the fine print. It's important if you're looking for the information, but not everyone will read it, and that's okay. Whoops, not that fine. How about like there? So down here, if you can't read it, it says materials for each lab will be shipped in your box. Some items that are perishable are not included due to shipping constraints. When you receive your shipping box, those additional items will be listed. Super helpful, something parent might want to know, but it doesn't need to be as big as it was. All right, so this shape here, I think is the same shape as this. It's a sort of organic blob, which is a really nice little lockup to use. And it's nice that they it's sort of repeated as well. Okay, so that has become way breathier. There's a lot more space, which is nice. I did wonder if we could, the black is very heavy. but I keep going back and forward. It kind of goes with this neon theme and the bright colors. I think it's kind of fun. So I'm gonna keep it. So what we've got is now 3 pages. We've got everything up front that's incredibly important. Then what we want the audience to do with this information. It might be cool. I might move this actually just to fill up a bit of space. Cute. Now I keep cropping that ever so slightly and it's bothering me. So I'm going to go find it again. There it is. And if I start from scratch, I won't get that little cut off. I don't know why that's happening. And the little angle is cute, I reckon. Okay, so that's the title information, but also what the audience should do. Then if they want to keep watching, there's all the details about the course. And then I was saying before that you want to end an ad with this key information. So if they got to the end, they have another option to be like, what was that handle again? Or what was the URL? They don't have to watch the whole thing. So I'm going to duplicate it and put it at the end. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's just review what changed. And then we'll delete the originals just so we can play the animation. We could even play with some of the animations, which is always fun. Cool. So we had a lot of information. There are some elements that I removed. Of course, I might have removed things that were important, and I don't have all the information to know what is most important about this course. Oh, that's what we forgot. I forgot the price. So this feels like it could be details, but as long as it's very readable. So I reckon I will make, what will I do? I think I'll use one of these Post-its because I think they're super cute to put that additional information on. And we do have room, which is nice. Put it here. And that's going to bleed into the footer. So I'm going to change it to green. Like that. Oops. And then I'll get the price information and put it on top. Oh. Sorry, I need to unlock it. There we go. There we go. Okay, cool. So I think there's a little effect on this that I'm going to take off just because it's large. It's on a lime green now, so I don't think it needs that additional treatment to make it stand out. There's 2 groups of text in here, so I'll just take this one out and move this one separately. I'm going to make the Post-it just about the price, not that additional information. So make it as big as I can in that space. Cool. Now that other information that was sitting with the prices may be quite important as well. What have we got? We've got the grade. I think that is a detail with including. Shipping begins June 7th feels more like the fine print information. I could be wrong, of course. I don't know the course and what would be most important to advertise to parents, but that would be my guess, that this information here is actually more about the shipping fine print. So I'm going to put it at the end there. And then this, classes are Tuesday, Thursday at 10 a.m. is super important. So I'm going to put it with the other important details at the top here. So what have we got? 12 science labs in 6 weeks, shipped directly to your front door. For grades 4 to 8, I'm going to give them a little bit more space. I know that's kind of cheating to put extra spaces, but it does make it a bit easier to read. And I am going to put one of those, I can't remember what they're called, just, you know, those like separators, those text separators. These guys.
order is probably the best term.
Yeah, I think they really help when you've got limited space and you've got two pieces of information to get across. They need to be defined. And I think the 10 a.m. could sit with the Tuesday, Thursday information. So we'll move that up there. So we've now made 3 lines of important details that are to be read first. And then I'll move this all down a little bit to make room. Come on, there we go. So it's still nicely sitting in the black space. And then I think it's really nice when the live on Zoom sort of overlaps a little bit, makes it pop. Cool, I think we've got everything we need. I would maybe if, say Amanda was a real client of mine, I might ask Amanda how she'd feel about making an even longer advertisement and breaking up this information into either a longer ad with more frames, or maybe the schedule information, it's possible, is more appropriate on like a follow-up email for people who did follow using the handle, or it's available on the website. It is a lot of information for a social media post, or it could be a campaign. She could divide all its information into 3 or 4 or 5 different Instagram or Facebook ads and run them and target them at different times, sort of showing different angles of the course she's trying to promote, just because there's so much information to show the audience. Okay, so back to where we were. We started here, and there's a lot of information. I think we've done quite a good job of dividing it out into what's core important and what is important if you're interested to know more. And then really important is this piece, which is what we want users to do, audience members to do, is mentioned twice, once in the middle and then once at the very end. Cool. Does anyone have any questions on that verbal explosion I've had at you before we play with the animation?
We do have a question from Danny, who wondered if you could just go over the 50% effect that you went through again. So yeah, with the text.
Sure thing. Okay, so it's a bit of a hack. I'll show you, I'll ungroup it and I'll start again. So we've got 2 layers of the same element. And what I've done is I did want the effect, but I just thought it was too strong. And there is the scale of intensity against the effect, but I'll show you what it does. I'll turn it right up so you can see. Turn it up to 100 so we can see it, and then we'll play with the intensity. As you can see, like, it's really subtle. It sort of glows more, but it's still too strong for me. So by default, it sits in the middle. And what I did is to turn down the intensity, I turned down the opacity of the whole thing. So I got the transparency down to 50%, and then I duplicated the element. Come on. Duplicated it and put it perfectly on top with these snap lines. You'll see them come up. They guarantee it's exactly in the right place. There we go. And then I can get the top layer and turn that right up. And then take the effect on the top layer off completely. Like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Cool.
We have another question from Sudha, who was wondering how you quickly unlocked things. Did you have a keyboard shortcut, or were you just using that?
Oh no, I thought I was taking ages doing that. Yeah, so originally, I didn't forget and go over Amanda's work, which I sometimes do completely by accident. I locked her whole page and then I duplicated. So then I ended up having to unlock each one. And I was doing it very manually up here. once it's locked, it's one of the immediate toolbar actions you can do. Yeah, there might be I don't think there is a shortcut for locking. I could be wrong, but no, I was using the toolbar. I was just trying to be quick about it.
Just doing it quickly. We've got one more question that's popped through here. How do you make sure that one page doesn't have too little information? Is there a rule that
I don't know if that's a thing. That might be controversial, but I mean, there could be the wrong information or information that's not important that would not be a good, it would have been a wasted opportunity to capture somebody's attention and tell them something that doesn't matter. But the less you have on the page, the more they can focus on that little information. So yeah, I mean, you could finish the animation just with this and really like hit home that this is what you want them to see. So I'll show you what that would look like. I'll delete this one. So we've got the first page, the details, and then that's where you end up. So if we press, what have we got? I had a good opportunity to look at that. That's probably long enough for that one. And then you could do longer on here. And then that's what you want them to take away, that information. So I don't think it can be too little information. One more question, was it from Marie? She said, how would you download it? There's a few options in the downloads menu. You could do it as a GIF if you didn't want music, which makes it a smaller file, but an MP3 or a MOV file will play when you upload it in social media. So it should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, really good point. You need to be able to get it once you've made it.
Yeah, key point. Yeah,
key point. Margie's now got a quick question too. Oh, yeah. So when you change the yellow text to black, how did you know it wouldn't work? When it was right at the top and you had the black text and there were like the name of the company in yellow, and
the sentence with the bits of yellow in it.
Yeah.
How did I know it wouldn't work?
How did you know to change? How did you know that yellow wouldn't work? What was it? Was it because of the background, or why did you think that was too much?
It wasn't so much the background. It was that there was a mix of colors in the same line, which makes it hard to visually follow, I think. So it was just an exercise in simplicity. Like we could have kept the yellow and gotten rid of the black. It was just about simplifying. Yeah, it didn't have to be. There was nothing about the yellow itself that wasn't working.
Right. Okay. And I think that's like the major theme of today's session, really, isn't it? Is that simplicity and pulling stuff out and keeping it consistent. Okay. Brilliant. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you so much. That was really fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was heaps of fun. Thanks so much for joining. And don't forget the link in the chat to the feedback form. And looking forward to seeing you at another Canva Space event. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.